I'm Metal Matson from Super Geeky Playdate, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network. Just like the show you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual host. Check out all other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
You are listening to the Starling Tribune, a podcast dedicated to the Arrow TV show.
I am the Green Arrow.
This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, situations, and stories are the properties of Time Warner. I am the Oracle, and this is your Tribune.
Welcome back to Earth 2's favorite newspaper, the Starling Tribune. I am not the Green Arrow, but I am the chief editor tonight. My name is SP, and your other reporters for this episode number 209 of the Starling Tribune are Chris.
All right, legends, put on your Sunday best because we are going to church.
Well, you got to say it when your hands are up in the air doing jazz hands and stuff like that. You got to do it that way.
I don't have good jazz hands.
Oh, everybody's got good jazz hands. You just put them up and then you shake them.
Nah.
Chris is not playing fair, Michelle.
I got jazz. Never mind.
And your other award-winning reporter for this episode number 209 of the Starling Tribune is Michelle.
When I mourn, I drink.
Apparently a lot. Those were big glasses. Did you see how big those glasses were?
But they weren't full.
Sized.
No, true. They weren't full. I suppose if you were acting that scene multiple times, you couldn't have them full and still be functional.
No.
Or maybe you can. Okay. This podcast is recorded on Thursday, September 6, 2018, live via geeks.live.
That's right. And this evening, we'll be discussing Legends of Tomorrow, as well as news, interviews, articles, and announcements that have dropped in the last week that could and very well will impact future episodes of Legends, as well as the greater DC TV universe. So that includes The Flash, Supergirl, Arrow, Vixen, Constantine, and any other wild things they come up with between now and the beginning of the season.
Batwoman.
It's true. Batwoman also.
If you're new to the show, thank you for searching us out on the internet and joining us. After the show, you can check out our content at GonnaGeek.com, where you can also find other geeky videos, podcasts, and articles.
Thanks, guys. Michelle, let's go ahead and get right into the episode.
This episode is Amazing Grace. It's season 3, episode 14. It originally aired Monday, March 12th, 2018. It was directed by David Geddes, who is a cinematographer turned director. He's directed 4 episodes of Legends. Written by Matthew Malla, who is an assistant on 31 episodes of Legends and has written 7 episodes. And Tyrone Carter was also an assistant, but for 17 episodes of Legends and has written 2 episodes of Legends.
I could see where you're talking about maybe a second string doing this episode. I could kind of see it. There wasn't a lot of intense CGI, like fighting CGI. I mean, there was the ghosts and stuff. But yeah, I could see that this episode with the storyline in the one town and everything, it just wasn't as majestic as other episodes. But I liked it. It was an okay episode. We'll talk about that in a second. What we're going to talk about right now, though, to start off, is the week of ratings that this episode aired, which was in March of 2018. Started off with this episode of Amazing Grace, The Legends of Tomorrow, on Monday, the 12th of March, to a total rating, and this is live plus 7-day DVR ratings, to 2.03. That's very respectable. On Tuesday, the 13th of March, you had Flash with the 16th episode of the 4th season, titled Run, Iris, Run, to a total rating of 3.67. Following The Flash, Black Lightning aired their 8th episode of their premiere season with the episode titled The Book of Revelations, to a total rating of 2.41, and no Arrow episode on Thursday, the 15th of March. So we don't have to hang our heads in shame over how low the ratings might have been. Guys, this is pretty respectable. Above 2 and a 3.67 for Flash. Live plus 7 DVR. This is great, Michelle, that you're putting together these live plus 7 DVR ratings, because when we're doing Arrow during the season, we only see the live ratings. And I got to tell you, it's a bit disheartening, but these ratings are pretty good.
I wonder if any of this was impacted by, is this the time of March Madness?
March Madness. There's a religious holiday slammed in there somewhere. I don't know when that was, but yeah, you have March Madness going on. So that's probably why there was no Thursday episode.
Probably, yeah.
It'd be interesting to see who waited like a week, like if they're watching a bunch of basketball or whatever. And again, we have no clue about app numbers or Netflix numbers. So
I just pulled up a website as we're playing right now, and the first of the weekend games was Thursday the 15th. Actually, it starts a Tuesday, but yeah, this was the first day of the tournament, which is why there was no Arrow episode that week. But there will be. Well, I don't know if there is next week or not. Well, we'll have to see. Wait, stay tuned to the next episode of Starling Tribune, and we'll go over it. All right, Michelle, enough of the ratings talk. Let's get into the episode. And as we start off the episode every time, we start about talking the theme of the episode. And oftentimes we go to the title of the episode. So the title of this episode being Amazing Grace. So does that fit the theme of the episode?
well, this episode is about beginnings of Elvis Presley and his uncle, and he ends up singing Amazing Grace in the church in order to deal with the spirits, because he ends up getting a guitar that has the death totem. So it's like somebody was like, I want to do an anachronism. I want it to be Elvis. We need to introduce the death totem. We'll just stick it in a guitar and we'll have it go into Elvis's hands, and that's what we'll do.
Yeah, someone wanted to play with Elvis. That's why we are where we are. I think SP was very much nicer about this episode at the top of the show than I was. I'll say it's a filler episode. If it weren't for the Death Totem, this episode's one you could skip past on your DVR. That being said, they established the Death Totem, did a good job of it. I would have rather have seen something with the Death Totem, though, like on the Mexican Day of the Dead or something like that. Play with that aspect of things. That would have been cool. But it was okay. Got some cool character moments. Got to hear some Elvis impersonations that were varying at different times.
And we got to see Zombie Alex.
Axel.
Got to see Zombie Axel.
I thought that was a great way of introducing the anachronism. Was all of a sudden Axel was Josh Groban.
Ooh.
I think it's really interesting that we would get Josh Groban even without Elvis Presley, which I don't know what that says about Josh Groban or their idea of Elvis's influence. But
I think someone on the writer's staff likes Josh Groban a good deal, is what it would mean to me.
I guess I'm not that big into Josh Groban, but I thought it was, I mean, we didn't have any Gary, so you kind of have to play with different things around there. They did the whole thing with Sarah, as your quote picked up at the beginning of the episode, where she didn't do her thing, so they made fun of her doing her thing, that they were getting their Sunday best on and going to church sort of thing. Yeah, okay, I'll take it. Filler episode. Yep. But we did get some movement forward. I mean, you got Wally moving in with Zari. They're bunkmates, I guess. Is that what's going on? I mean, there's no romantic thing going on between them. They're bunkmates, right?
well, they were until Wally decided to move himself into Stein's room. So they were bunkmates for like 3 minutes. And Wally, moved himself in. He did the dishes. He finished the chore wheel.
Beat all the high scores on Zari's video games. And then beat Trombone Hero.
Yeah, I was going to say Trombone Hero.
Sorry, I stepped on your line.
That's all right. I've actually played trombone. Have either of you two played trombone?
I played the saxophone in high school and middle school.
I was the violin.
I played trombone just because I wanted to learn how the slide positions worked and stuff like that. And then because I was a trumpet player, that was my main instrument. But once you play trumpet, you can play just about anything else because the fingering and the notes are the same. Of course, with the bass instrument, you're in the different register. But the thing about trombones is it's completely different because of the positioning of the slide. And so I played it. And then years later, Star Trek The Next Generation came on and Commander Riker was a trombone player. So I thought I was all hot and everything because I knew how to play trombone like Riker. So I could rock Trombone Hero.
I think someone needs to make it so we can find out.
Make it so.
Of course, then people would have to share a plastic trombone. And it's bad enough sharing plastic guitars. A trombone you have to put to your, like, how would they do that? Like, would it just be in a, like just buttons on a
I think it's just based on the slide, basically. I don't know that you'd actually have to apply your mouth to the mouthpiece.
Yeah. So it have to be some sort of slide control. I'm trying to figure out, because I played Guitar Hero and I know how like the keyboard and the guitar and how the singing work, because you have to sing into a microphone that way. But I'm just kind of figure out like the mechanics of Trombone Hero.
You would have to, it would be slide position, really, would be how you could do it. I mean, you could do different mouthpieces, but you're right. There's a sanitary issue there.
That'd be gross.
Yeah. Once you played an instrument, you know how to take care of your mouthpiece, whatever instrument that is, like a clarinet, saxophone, trumpet, whatever. You take care of that thing and you wipe it off and stuff like that. Violin, do you have to clean off where the violin nestles on your shoulder? You have to clean that area off?
Yeah, because otherwise it gets all like gunky and stuff.
Yeah.
You have to make sure you clean off like the resin, so the resin on the strings doesn't build up.
Still, I would so rock Trombone Hero. I'm not going to let that go. I would do that because I know how to play trombone quite well, actually. So, yeah. We'll have to figure that out someday.
And Nate with his hair.
I thought that was actually kind of cute how they pulled that off, though, where Elvis doesn't exist and then magically his hair's like... Now, granted, I don't understand hair very well, so maybe it was more entertaining to someone of my follicular persuasion. I don't know.
Follicular persuasion. Okay, is that one way to call it? Okay, we can go with that. Yeah, the pair, I think they did the era pretty well. I think, have either of you two been to Memphis?
I have not.
No.
I had the opportunity to go to Memphis a few times and actually stay over a weekend, so on and so forth. And it was pretty good. I did walk up and down Beale Street. And while certain aspects of it is very touristy compared to what you can get like off Beale Street now, whatever, it brought me back to that time and in my mind anyway. And I enjoyed that experience. Now, this, of course, was not, they didn't film it in Memphis or anything, but just by the mentioning of the areas, it was pretty cool. How can you go wrong with bringing up Elvis? Is Elvis as good as George Lucas or any of the other stars that we've seen? Or, I mean, was it not that good for you guys?
So I'm not an Elvis Presley nut like many people are, but you can make a solid argument that rock and roll, a lot of that is Elvis kicking that off. So the way that this show was working, lots of people who are musical historians and things like that would say without Elvis, music would be completely different. So I bought into it.
Well, one of the things that I'm glad they acknowledge is that Elvis got all of his stuff from the black musicians because he redid a lot of the stuff that was already. So he's kind of like the first white guy to bring. Yeah, I mean, it's like they touched on it, but then again, it's not all that great of a thing. Then you have to understand like the true history. It's like Elvis took what other people were doing, Black Americans, and he became like the ambassador for it for the white people. And so, yes, because he brought that into, the white American mainstream, we, had that influence on our culture. So, yes, he did play a huge role. He was able to make it popular and do what he did. So, yeah.
All right. I'll acquiesce with that. And they did delve into the religious aspect of the South a little bit, where the minister's son, you had to, toe the line, that sort of thing. I did not know that Elvis had a twin. Is that real? Did anybody fact check that?
Let's see. Google machine.
Okay, we'll go on the Google Live here on the podcast and we'll figure that out. Michelle, what else do we got for this episode?
He did have a twin brother who died at birth. His mother used to say Elvis had the energy of two people. This is attributed to an article from August 8th, 2014.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I had no
We
idea.
cannot skip over the passing of our beloved Axel,
No,
the funeral that we had.
Pour one out for my homie. Don't actually
don't pour
Exactly.
water. I mean, you got to have a Sammy.
Exactly.
I don't have anything like that here.
Oh, well, have one later and pour one out for the guy.
Will do. This one's going to be for you, Axel.
I love the montage at the end of the episode.
It was just like Talking Dead. That's
Yeah.
why, I mean, it was talking about Axel, zombie Axel. It was because of the montage at the end. Okay, so for those that don't know what I'm talking about, at the end of Walking Dead, then there's a show called Talking Dead, or has been a show called Talking Dead. We'll see if it actually comes back or not. And then at the end, or either at the end of that show or in the middle, whatever, they have an homage to all of the zombies and people that have quote unquote died throughout the episode, because it's a zombie show. People are going to die. And so that was what the montage reminded me of, was when they did that on Talking Dead. I might be completely off base, but that's what I remember.
That's what I remember too from my Walking Dead time. I quit on that show a while ago.
I haven't watched it for years.
Yeah, I stopped watching it too, but it was nice to see Zari and Wally start to bond. They're technically the two newbies, but Zari's. It's kind of weird because Zari did that time loop episode. She's kind of integrated herself in with the crew, and she ends up being the one to tell Wally, we have to be a scalpel and not the chainsaw.
Yeah, she's finally learned that lesson of you can't just go through time willy-nilly changing things.
Is a speedster a chainsaw, though? I mean, they're pretty precise usually.
Well, the speed itself isn't necessarily, it's more of his mentality of things. Of, I'm just going to rush in and do it without thinking of the consequences, which is a notorious speedster trait.
Mm-hmm.
That's more what I would argue is the chainsaw aspect of things.
Because he was able to go in there and actually make a connection with Elvis's uncle and get the record without, stealing it.
Right you are.
I really don't have that much else to say about this episode. Do either of you two have a lot to say about the episode?
Like I said, and I'm not trying to beat on it, it's a filler episode. I remember at the time when we watched it, I went, well, this feels a little different than normal. At least they're advancing the whole death totem idea. At least they're being smart at the end with Ray, being like, hey, I'm going to lock these up so that we can't get into them. Some foreshadowing for next week. Hint, hint, hint. But there's very little out of this that then has great changes in the future of this show.
Yeah, so there was no Ava. There was a Constantine mention, but there was no actual Constantine.
Yeah, that bummed me out. I was hoping they'd at least get like a video of him. Get him up on Skype or something.
The Gideon version of Skype. And I
Yeah.
really did not care for all of the Nate Amaya stuff. I mean, so what if they needed a music moment and him trying to get her to like rock and roll and stuff? It's just like, yeah, like to me, like this is not my favorite episode of the season.
No,
it is
that-
kind of skippable.
Yeah, that was last episode or whenever and it's not really a time loop episode because it was all in Gideon, but that's what we'll call it, time loop episode. That was my favorite. I mean, there's other good episodes, but time loop.
Yeah, we had a good run of episodes there for a while where they were all really good. They all seem to have impact on things and set up for things. And this is natural for a show with more than, say, 13 or 14 episodes in a season, is sometimes they have to take a break, a slight step to reset and move on to the next path. So that's what they did here, and their reset at least involved the next totem, kind of out of nowhere, but that's how a lot of these have turned out. So while it's not my favorite, it's not terrible either. It's perfectly serviceable. It's just not as good as what we've already had this season.
One thing we always usually do is we rate Sarah as a captain. She was captain this episode. There was no Sarah in a coma and nobody else acting like captain or anything like that. So can we do that in this episode?
She helped preside over a wonderful funeral. 10 out of 10.
Did she preside? I thought that was
She drank
Ray.
with him, though.
Okay.
She stopped Ray from singing Sweet Child of Mine. So that is
forgot
a
about
perfect
that.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, Sarah.
Okay.
Is there anything else either of you want to talk about when it comes to this episode?
I'm out.
Yeah, like I said, if you're a rewatcher on this one, you can feel free to skip this one and just watch the recap of the next episode. It'll tell you everything you need to know, which is, hey, the Legends found a death totem.
Yes, because the box rattles at the end and it leads into next week's episode, which is called Necromancing the Stone. It originally aired Monday, March 19th, 2018. When Mollus's power over Sarah resurfaces, she unwittingly becomes bearer of one of the totems. Rory must conquer his dark side in order to wield his own totem power to help save the crew. Meanwhile, Agent Sharp notices that something is wrong and recruits someone unorthodox to help. It was directed by April Mullen and written by Grain Godfrey and Morgan Faust.
Can I just say I love that play on words for the title of next week's episode? I loved it when I saw it originally, and every time I see it, it just kind of brings a smile to my face. And I also greatly enjoy the unorthodox someone who comes into play. You all will like it too, I promise.
You know, the title of this next upcoming episode reminds me of a title of a Venture Brothers episode. I mean, that would be something that would be in the Venture Brothers.
It sounds like something Adult Swimish, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, fair enough. I did like Romancing the Stone, the movie, so we'll talk all about that.
Is it on Hallmark Channel?
It might be. I don't know. I'll have to check. Hey, in the meantime, let's get on into some news. Live from the Starling Tribune main news desk on floor 52 of the Starling Tribune Tower, it's the weekly news roundup with award-winning chief news anchor, Michelle Ely. And now, Michelle Ely.
Thank you, SP. At the beginning of the episode, we say that there is going to be spoilers, and the news that we have is full of spoilers. So, Chris, why don't you get us started about Arrow?
There's some spoilerific news coming out of TVLine.com. They're doing a scoop on 40 returning favorite TV shows, one of which was Arrow, and I'd say it's more than one scoop we get in here. Probably 2 to 3 scoops worth of content, but we'll let you guys be the judge. Fair warning, it's a bit of a long excerpt we've got here, so we'll try and break it into pieces as we go. What excites new showrunner Bess Schwartz most about having Oliver behind bars, shoulder to shoulder with many of the baddies he bested in the past is, quote, they're all on the same playing field, end quote. But wanting to be a model inmate and not make waves, Oliver will need to make different moral choices because of the position he's in. Of course, since Oliver is the one who brokered the deal that traded his freedom for the Fed's help against Diaz, keeping wife Felicity in the dark, he's going to learn that he might not have had the best idea. So guys, we all kind of touched on this. Oliver's idea, probably not so great. And this whole thought here ties into something Stephen Amell said about episode 1, where he goes, yeah, you're all probably going to hate Oliver a little bit.
So, because of the change in showrunner, can we say that this wasn't Oliver's idea? This was actually the past showrunner's idea?
Well, I mean, at this point in time, they'd already announced a new showrunner, so it's possible that she had some say in what happened in the finale. I don't know.
Okay.
Or she's just inheriting the turd sandwich, for lack of a better term.
I think she's inheriting the mess and trying to make it sound as best she can.
Quite possibly. But there is even more that came out of this. On the villain front, Diaz will resurface as more of the dragon-type comic book character he's based on, while the Longbow Hunters, an almost mythical band of assassins, will prove they're in fact quite real. As for Colton Haynes' return as a series regular, Schwartz will only affirm that he is definitely playing the Earth One Roy Harper that we all know and Thea loves, or loved, they have in parentheses. That sounds ominous. But, so yeah, okay. What do we get out of this? Roy's coming back, he's Earth 1 Roy. So that conspiracy theory that we had at one point in time, that it's Earth 2, Earth 57, or some other Earth Roy, that goes out the window. I think we're starting to get more towards Thea sent Roy back for something.
As long as nothing happened to Thea, that will piss me off. Yeah, we've talked about that before. And, oh, by the way, I don't think we talked about it since the end of 12 Monkeys, but I watched the last season of 12 Monkeys, and, of course, Kurt Aceveda, who plays the dragon on the show, was so good in that. Of course, it's a time travel show with 12 Monkeys, so even though he had previously died, they were able to bring him back onto the show, and it just reminded me of how good he really is. So Arrow really scored to have him on. And even though we all questioned the development of the dragon last season, we still get Kurt on the screen. So that's a plus.
Right. And I'm more intrigued by the little info there that Bess Schwartz dropped, that he'll become more like the comic book character this season. So I'm okay with that. I'm sure the comic book purists are also like, yes, this is fantastic. But guys, this story still isn't done. One last piece here, a bonus spoiler that TVLine.com provided. Know how we previously reported that Felicity is coping the worst in the wake of Oliver's imprisonment? Well, guess who is faring the best? According to Beth Schwartz, I would say Laurel, confirming that Earth 2's frenemy is now Star City's district attorney.
How is she going to pull that off? Like, is she just like looking up? Does she have like Google on her cell phone?
All she has to do is watch a lot of LA Law, watch a lot of the crime shows like CSI and the other cop shows that are on, and she'll be fine.
I was really hoping someone would say Law and Order, so I go bum bum.
I was intentionally avoiding it, but since you did it, I'll do it for you. Law and Order.
Bum bum.
Oh, what?
Well, it's not any good when you have to tell the person to set it up, you know. It's not as fun.
No, I agree with you. There's a suspension of disbelief here when someone who has been a criminal... Well, this is it. Maybe she knows all the laws because she's been a criminal and broke all of the laws on Earth 2 before she came over. I don't know. She's probably making great use of the Google machine and all of Laurel's old law school books that were in Quentin's house. / apartment / whatever it was. I don't remember.
I wonder if we could have brought the real Laurel back to life with the Elvis guitar.
Well, at least her ghost.
That would be awkward.
A little bit.
Very. Well, we have scoop about Legends. In vanquishing Malice, the Legends did what they do best, created a new problem. By opening our world to hobgoblins from a broad spectrum of myth, legend, and fairy tale, and now the mission is to hunt them down and bag them up. Alas, this new wrinkle arrives just as Sarah is finally starting to have a life with girlfriend Ava. Okay, I love the fact that they put that girlfriend Ava. It's like, it's no longer will they, won't they, are they. It's like officially, they're official a couple. I like that.
It was so cute when them getting together as a couple, though. And Sarah and Alex from Supergirl was cute earlier in the season in the wedding, in the crossover. So Sarah's had a good season.
She's pretty much had good seasons throughout Legends of Tomorrow. She's definitely my favorite, one of my favorite characters on here. I can't say my favorite because Mick Rory's still here.
Exactly.
Sorry, guys. I love Mick Rory's character change over the years.
Although Amaya bid the team adieu in the finale, Maisie Richardson Sellers is back as a mythical fugitive who will keep the Legends guessing as to whether she is a friend or fiend. Similarly, now that Courtney Ford is a series regular, Nora Dark is poised to sink into a complicated ally. Lastly, with Nate parked in 2018 to attend to a very real story involving his dad, that frees up a bunk for Constantine, and free he will be. He doesn't like to wear a lot of clothing going to and from the shower, according to EP Phil Clemmer. So if I get Matt Ryan bum, I am going to be so happy. You do not know how happy I will be to see, like, as much of a naked Matt Ryan as CW can get away with. I'm gonna be happy.
I'm pretty sure they could go full bum.
Well, I'm pretty sure you won't actually get the bum because Stephen Amell said on Twitter he was bummed that he was put in a bunch of extra workout time because they were supposed to do a scene, presumably the whole shower fight scene, where it would involve his nude bum as well, and the censors said no. So he put in all of that extra time getting toned and firmed up to not be allowed to do it.
There's always Instagram.
That is true.
And lastly, as a bonus, a former Legend will be returning in an unexpected form to try and kill the team.
It's got to be one of the Hawks.
Ugh. You know, one of them used to be a barista, right?
Maybe that's what's happening. She's going to come back and just
Poison
put all this
coffee.
espresso in the food replicator, and I don't know. It has to be a former Legend. So yeah, we have the Hawks. Stein, technically a former Legend.
I don't know. I mean, he's done. I
Yeah, I don't think they would do that. I don't think they would bring him back to try to kill the team. And I don't think they would do that with Snart, considering the great farewell that they had with him.
It's not going to be Wally.
No.
Yeah, so we're narrowing in on the Hawk people.
I hope it's Rip. Evil Rip.
Oh, no,
Unless it's Rip.
You know who could be? Could be Jax.
That's true too.
Oh, that's right. Jax. Yeah.
Ugh.
Jax or Rip. But I don't think it's going to be Rip because it seems as though Arthur Darvill's moved on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're thinking either one of the Hawk people or Jax. Is
Yep.
that our prediction?
I hope it's Jax out of those options.
It'd be good to bring him on with more screen time, but I still the Stein decision we've talked about before. It's bittersweet because it not only gave Martin Stein a great exit to the show, but then it also impacted everybody around him as well. So just when Jax was honestly starting to get really, really interesting. So I don't know. You have to move on if you're an actor and stuff like that. But the character Jax, I don't know if I can stomach him going bad. Now, the Hawk people, I don't care. They could go bad all they want.
Yeah, I don't think many people would care because they haven't been on screen since the very end of season 1. And in fact, the only reference we've really had to them lately was one of their helmets in the Time Loop Groundhog Day episode, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So based on that, my hope is that it's one of the Hawk people.
Yeah.
And then we get to see him get killed.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sad.
We really don't like the Hawk people at all.
No.
We're like, yeah, bring them back bad, and then the team can kill them. That's
To erase one of the mistakes of the legends.
It was an anachronism that needed repairing. We can't have immortal Hawk people. Oh, jeez. Before we go off the news, forgot to mention this and put it in the news show notes, but if any of you guys are professional wrestling fans who are listening to this last weekend, Stephen Amell put the trunks back on again at an event called All In Chicago and wrestled a full match, and he even put himself through a table. So kudos to you, Stephen Amell, for showing off some pretty good wrestling chops for someone who is not a full-time wrestler and I think has only been in the ring like 2 times prior. So that was pretty cool.
It was. I didn't actually see the match. I saw his posts on Instagram, so that's how I knew that he was it. Yes, I follow Stephen Amell on Instagram.
It's because his workout videos are like inspiration. That's why I follow him on YouTube.
He's got a very peculiar personality, and it fits the Green Arrow pretty well. So the CW did well to cast him the way it is. But yeah, his workouts are, dude. In a few years, you could almost see him becoming The Rock.
That's a lot of lifting. But I wonder if his cheat days would be as epic as The Rock's. If you guys
Holy
don't know
crap.
what I'm talking about, go check out The Rock's Instagram for some of his cheat day photos. They
6,000
insanity.
calories in pancakes alone.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy crap.
4 pizzas, 6 dozen brownies. 6 dozen brownies is probably an over exaggeration, but look up The Rock's cheat days and then you'll feel sick to your stomach.
wow. Well, that's all I have for news. Now, Chris, we are part of a bigger network, the GonnaGeek.com network, where we have a lot of podcasts. What is an example of one of them?
That's right. We've got 25 plus shows in the network. We can't tell you about every show. What we can do is highlight one show and say, hey, you guys might want to go check this one out. And this week, we're talking about our friends for the Game Life Balance US podcast. Last week was Australia. This week is US for episode 55 entitled Dave Wisnowski Changed His Life on a Dare and Ended Up Creating a Legendary Video Game. In 2002, Dave Wisnowski quit his job and set out to make his own wrestling game. More than 15 years later, he's still at the helm of Pro Wrestling X, one of the most ambitious independent game projects in modern video game history. In this podcast, he tells his story and gives an update on the game that by all rights shouldn't exist, and how he's been able to stick to it for so long. So this sounds like a really cool interview podcast to get an idea of a guy who's been doing this for 16 years now? Doing an indie wrestling video game? I'm super intrigued. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but I'll be bumping it up to the top of my list. I want more. And if you want more, go on over to GonnaGeek.com, click on the network button, and check out all of the other shows on the network. But all that being said, it is time for us to start wrapping up this latest episode of the Starling Tribune. A big thank you to the live viewers that did participate in the chat room over on Geeks.live, the official streaming home of the Gonna Geek Network. But also a thank you to everyone who downloads the audio replays from StarlingTribune.com or the video replays from youtube.com/GonnaGeek.
If you happen to have an Amazon device, those personal home assistants that are voice activated, you can enable our podcast as a skill. All you have to say is, hey, a word or whatever the activation word is, enable Starling Tribune, and it will activate the podcast as a skill. Also, you could enable Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. skill as well. That works too. And remember, you can always catch us live as we record at www.geeks.live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays.
We would love to hear from you. We're the Starling Tribune on Facebook and Instagram, at Starling Tribune on Twitter, and you can call us at 612-888-CAVE. That's 612-888-2283. Well, this brings us to the end of another great episode. Any last words before we sign off? At Stargate Pioneer.
Hashtag Zombie Axel.
At the Chris Farrell.
Hashtag Follicular Persuasion.
And I am at Michelle Ely, signing off with hashtag Rip Axel. Oracle, I think we're done here.
This was the Starling Tribune. You can leave us feedback at GonnaGeek.com or check out our archive at StarlingTribune.com. Visit GonnaGeek.com for more podcasts. Music by Kevin MacLeod can be found at Incompetech.com. This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, stories, and situations are the property of Time Warner. No infringement is intended. We will see you for the next episode of CW's Arrow.